plays, and I think he sees the game really, really well, has been raised the right way.
Our interactions with him have been really positive. I've really enjoyed him. I like his demeanor. I like the way he comes across. He's confident without being over the top.
Even if Shedeur Sanders is just Andy Dalton, he just goes to multiple Pro Bowls, leads his perennially awful team to multiple playoff appearances. As the draft continues to approach, the conversation around the draft continues to intensify, specifically around Shedeur Sanders. It seems like it's all been solidified that Cam Ward is going to go number 1 overall, but everyone has Shedeur Sanders going from the 2nd pick all the way to the 5th round. It doesn't seem like there's any consistency there. So today we've got some head coaches from the Browns. We got head coaches, Mr. Callahan from the Tennessee Titans. They're going to confirm some things, reveal some truths, and also back up some lies, because my man Callahan, hey, Deion Sanders said he made the call, so I guess he's going to go ahead and respond to that. So let's start right off the bat on what Stefanski thinks Shedeur Sanders does well. Appreciate y'all watching these videos. If you like them, leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy these types of content. Let's hop right into it, man.
He's an extremely talented football player. Again, getting to know the kid, you watch the tape, and you, I think the important part as an evaluator is you want to talk to the player about plays and how he plays, and I think he sees the game really, really well, has been raised the right way. I think they've done an outstanding job bringing him along in terms of understanding football, but he's a very, very talented young man, but off the field is where I'm probably most impressed.
So, and sorry about the audio. I know the audio was a little chopped up, but yeah, so there's Stefanski kind of proclaiming. Now, let me see if this audio is a little better. 1 second.
He's an
yeah, no. So, okay, so it's just this one in general. So that's where they feel about what's it called when it comes to Shedeur just as overall prospect. Here is what Stefanski thinks about Kenny Pickett, who is currently on his roster of quarterbacks.
Yeah, very excited about Kenny. We've had him up into our building and just the brief time talking to him, understanding what he knows about this game and how he's been coached. I caught up with some of his former coaches in Philly and filled me in on the type of person, type of player. So excited for Kenny and the opportunity, see what he's capable of, and he's got the right makeup for it.
Yeah, so I mean, again, like I tell you all the time, look, it's all about keeping up this veil. It's all about keeping these lies and making sure that you don't show your cards. We're less than a month away from the draft, so I tell you every single time, it's all lies, right? So continuing on with the, I wouldn't say lies, but the covering up. Here is what Stefanski had to say about Milroe, which Jalen Milroe, I think, has been a prospect or a quarterback prospect that has just kind of fallen off the face of earth when we talk about where we've been mocking him and where people kind of perceive his value at.
Yeah, I don't see him just as a runner, Tony. That's certainly an element of his game. God's blessed him with the ability to make plays with his feet when necessary, but he's made plenty of throws in his career. So, again, another really impressive young man, having getting down there, spending some time with him and his family. I think he's, again, done a really nice job just throughout this process. I don't know if I'd say improvement. I mean, obviously, I know Senior Bowl, you get in the 7-on-7 or that type of drill, so this is on air. But, yeah, I think you're always looking at mechanics and how you can help a player. But, yeah, I think the biggest thing, Tony, is it's such a body of work. It's such an all-encompassing thing when you're talking about evaluating these guys. So you don't want to say, hey, he had a great throwing session that one day, that shoots him up your draft board. You take all of this into account.
Absolutely. And, I mean, to be honest with you, that is the real hard truth facts. I think the way that they're perceiving these things, and like I said, don't let Jalen Milroe get lost in the sauce, because I think he could be one of those players. I think he's going to be drafted where Anthony Richardson should have been drafted. Maybe 3rd round, maybe 2nd round, whatever. Someone takes a chance on him as an athletic freak, as a prospect, as someone who, hey, as a Texas fan who went against him, gotta respect his deep ball. If you're not respecting his deep ball, I don't know what you're doing. So he is not a non-factor when it comes to throwing the ball, but at the same time, you have to understand kind of what he's going to be perceived at in the NFL. So going on to the Tennessee Titans, here we have Mr. Callahan talking about Shedeur Sanders and specifically the interactions that have been out there in the news cycle in the last months. And this is what he had to say. He's kind of, I think, defending our guy.
I think it's unique to him. I think it's not a bad thing that his dad's been able to be around. I mean, he's pretty good at what he does. So, I think you just have to separate. You have to separate what the differences between just knowing and being with your dad the entire time and what's that going to look like when you're not. And I think it'll be an adjustment for him just in general because that's just what he's used to, and the opportunity to enter the NFL and not be with your dad will be something that I think will be one of the things he's going to have to work through just because he's been with his dad for so long.
So in that video, like I said, because the audio is pretty low, and I'll still play the other one as well, where I think he gets more specifically on some of those negative things. But he just comes out and says, hey, he's a great kid. We know his father. And, he kind of alludes to, some people call it a hurdle. Some people could just say it's another evolutionary part of just being a man, being someone as your own. But playing an NFL team or playing in a football team in general where your dad's not there, when he has been there at every single step of the way, it's got to be something that's a major, not just for Deion Sanders, but also for Shedeur. So it's interesting that he kind of acknowledges that while still giving him the grace of like, hey, man, he's a good kid. And this is him kind of elaborating some more.
How would you describe how those interviews went?
Our interactions with him have been really positive. We had him in for a 30 visit on top of it, and then we're heading out to his pro day. But I've really enjoyed him. I like his demeanor. I like the way he comes across. He's confident without being over the top, I think, which is a good thing. But I've enjoyed it, and I wouldn't say that I know him as good as some of the people that have worked with him for a long time. But all our interactions have been positive. I'm excited to see what he can bring.
How would you describe how those interviews?
That's great, and you love to hear that, and that's interesting because it's just super interesting to me that no one has been able to look you in the eye and really answer the question that say, oh yeah, Shedeur Sanders is, this bad person, or he is this whatever issue problem, right? It continues to be this conversation that when you ask people like in front of them in the face, hey, this is a guy bad. Oh no, is he confident? Yeah, he's confident, but he's not overconfident. I don't know, man. It just seems like what we talked about ad nauseum at this point, that he's a confident guy who doesn't need to grovel, right? Doesn't need to beg for these opportunities because he believes that he's ready for it and he's been around these lights and things of that nature. But he goes on to say, hey, everything's been positive. I don't understand. I like his demeanor. I like his confidence. I like the fact that he's confident and not overconfident, that he has a bit of a swagger to him. He didn't say that. I said that. But I think that's dope to see. And we talk about someone else who's got a bit of confidence, and we're not going to take too long. This is about Shedeur, but we are here talking about Cam Ward because I think it's important when we talk about where Shedeur is going to get drafted. We talk about the number one pick or the overall number one pick, and this is what Callahan had to say about Cam Ward.
Working it the way you guys are.
Yeah, I get where that sentiment would come from. But I'll just say this again: like the one thing that Mike has preached this whole process is that we're going to go through it, and that means making sure we're doing our due diligence and all the players available, all the options available. I think that's the right way to go about it, is to make sure you're doing the right things by every player that's there for you and looking at all the options. And then when you make a decision, and the decision's been made, then you move forward. But I think anytime that you just sit and you just pretend like there's nothing else out there, I don't think that's a disciplined approach. I don't think that you get a chance to look at the totality of the class. So I just think there's a part of doing the job the right way, and I think that's our approach. And again, once we make the decision, no matter what it is or who it is, we'll be thrilled to death. But I think the right thing to do is to do it the way we're doing it and make sure that you turn over all the rocks and you go through all the things you have to go through until you get to that point.
Yeah, that just sounds like in this post. I'm not sure if I still have what's it called, highlights over this or not, but this post is like, why aren't the Titans just coming out and saying they're drafting Cam Ward? It's like, yeah, we like to look at all options, which kind of implies that there is a preferred option. And by the way, you know what I'm saying? By the way, these boys was dapped up and hugging or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, dog. I don't know. He's talking about, we gotta do our due diligence, right? We can't just act like we know exactly who we want to draft. We can't do that. We can't do that, dog. So great politics there. Great politics there. Now I want to talk about something because we're gonna get deeper in here. Actually, let's hear this because we heard a lot from the Giants, and we also heard a little bit from. Sorry, not a lot from the Giants. We heard from Browns. We heard from the Titans. What does Shedeur have to say about the Giants because I ain't hearing nothing from the Giants. Let's check this out.
That's what you gonna be going. That's what you going against.
Yeah, you know that's what it is.
No, dog, you can't come please, Neff. Go anywhere but the NFC East, man. Please, man.
He's gonna have to root against him.
Please, Neff. Please don't. I want to wear Shedeur Sanders jerseys all year. I can't do that shit. You with the Giants.
Hey, man. He said he can't do that if you a Giant, dog. I can't do that if you a Giant. I don't think that means anything. I got to be honest with you. Shout out to Gilly. Shout out to those boys at Well Off Media. I don't think it really means anything hugely, giantly, right? But let's get into it. The conversation that was brought about, and there's plenty of conversations about Shedeur. We're going to get into that and listen to that about the number ones, where Mel Kiper has it, these conversations. But a specific conversation brought up by Mr. Hasselbeck, the Tim of the Hasselbecks, is important because he made this comparison to Andy Dalton. You know, it's super dope. I should have put this in here. People are putting comparisons to Teddy Bridgewater too. Let me just to remind myself, because I'm about to yap real quick. Teddy Bridgewater. We've got Geno Smith. And now Andy Dalton. Now, before we get into the video, what I really want to just start by letting y'all know the type of channel this is. I'm somebody, look, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm not an elite athlete, right? I don't know if you can tell. But I really respect athletes, and I respect elite athletes. And what we do a lot of times, especially as young fans, you know, when I was, way younger, yeah, it's a joke, whatever. It's a, you know what I'm saying? Hey, these guys are buns. These guys are, they ain't win no Super Bowls. Y'all ain't, putting up crazy stats, XYZ. Geno Smith, by all accounts, was considered a bust until he had his revival of a career. You have someone like Teddy Bridgewater, who was looked at as not almost a project guy, a guy who had a decent floor and an unknown ceiling. Obviously, Teddy, 2 gloves. It's a little bit unconventional glove throwers at the quarterback position, but he is a Florida legend. Shout out to him because he's a state champion out there. So coming out of Louisville, I saw someone compare Shedeur to Teddy Bridgewater. I like that. Pocket passers with enough ability to get around the pocket. They're not duds as athletes, but hey, you don't want to run no read option if you can do it, right? Delivers good balls. The arm isn't extremely powerful, but where they make their money is decision making, putting the ball in great places, and having great timing. That's Teddy Bridgewater. He had to, because he was throwing with 2 gloves. There was a lot of, his spiral is this, he can't do that. He had a few successful years in the NFL, to be honest with you. Barring any injury, that's not a bad career. Geno Smith, we kind of alluded to that. This is somebody who's a big body, right? A little bit more of an athlete. Not he wasn't no read option guy, but he could wiggle. Geno Smith could get down there, right? He could do what needs to get done. And then you talk about someone who has a cannon, right, on his right arm. So a little different flavor there. They might do it in the same ways, but Geno is known for those hard, velocity balls over the middle, attacking things. Now, I would say the way in the areas that they like attack, right? Geno Smith is no stranger to the middle field, taking the top off and doing those things that we assume Shedeur Sanders is going to be able to do in that intermediate area. But Geno has that cannon on him too. So, and not to take anything away. And then you talk about the Red Rifle. Now, the Red Rifle's a legend, right? Tim Hasselbeck is going to compare Shedeur Sanders to Andy Dalton. And as a Houston Texans fan who's been alive longer than the Houston Texans were a team, not by much, not too much. I'm not that. Come on, calm down. Calm down. I know about Andy. Hey, I know about Andy. I don't like using the AI thing, but I couldn't find something that was a little more succinct. But before we listen to this, they are comparing Shedeur Sanders, who by all accounts right now is considered a second-round pick. If I would say consensus, everybody's looking at him as a second-round pick, right? They're comparing him to someone in Andy Dalton, who has 3 Pro Bowl selections, 2 AFC Offensive Player of the Month awards, 3 AFC Offensive Player of the Week awards, and Offensive Rookie of the Month award in 2011, right? NFL top 135 ranked. Bengals taking them to the Super Bowl, taking them to the playoffs. Dalton led the Bengals to consecutive playoff appearances from 2011 to 2015. I know, because we squabbled up in them wild cards. It was Texans versus Bengals. And by the way, Andy Dalton, very known for being a regular season merchant, putting up great years. But I say all that to say we get so tied up, I think, in this is more of a basketball culture thing, less of a football thing. So, it's not as big deal. But we get so tied up in like, well, he doesn't have the MVPs. He doesn't have the Super Bowl championship. The dude's been playing for 14 years in the league. And he started for a good majority of them. For a good 6, 7 of them. 6 sets. Sorry, I'm not trying to TikTok it. But a nice chunk of those, he was the starter. And he was the guy. And he was one of the top quarterbacks in the, I was about to say NFC. AFC. Andy Dalton is no slouch. Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, was a legend in college football. So even if Shedeur Sanders is just Andy Dalton, he just goes to multiple Pro Bowls, he just leads his perennially awful team to multiple playoff appearances. It's the Bengals, guys. Y'all don't remember the Bengals before Joe Cool, I know. But it's the Bungles. They were bungling it up until the Red Rocket got in there. And Carson Palmer did his thing too. Don't get it twisted. Carson Palmer's that dude too. But Andy Dalton got in there and handled his business. So let's not get so enthralled with, oh my God, Andy Dalton, he's a backup. He's been playing in the league for 14 years. He's gone to multiple playoff appearances. He was a top 10, 15-ish quarterback for the majority of his starting career. I'm sorry, but I don't know is that bad? Are y'all gonna make fun of Shedeur Sanders if he? Let's be real. Are y'all going to make fun of Shedeur Sanders if he gets in the league, goes to multiple Pro Bowls, playoffs, starts for a majority of his career? What do y'all want, dog? Everybody can't be Coach Prime. But let's hear it. Come on, Timmy. What you got for me, Timmy? Let's hear it.
Look, I think I agree with everything Sam said in terms of the strengths of Shedeur Sanders. He is smart. He knows how to play the position. I think where it gets really tricky is like you're talking about rarefied air when you're talking about drafting a guy at the top of the draft. And look, he just is not as physically talented as you would like to see. I mean, it sounds crazy considering he's Deion Sanders' son, but like that's just the case. And so, look, my comp on Shedeur Sanders has kind of been in that like Andy Dalton range. People have compared him to Kirk Cousins. Look, those are compliments. Both of those guys have thrown for over 250 touchdowns through their NFL career. Both of those guys have led teams to the playoffs. But when you're talking about the top half of round one, look, again, you're looking for elite traits, and he just doesn't have those. Now, look, you're going to have to beat the market at quarterback, so you're going to have to draft a rookie quarterback at some point because of what's happened with the Deshaun Watson deal.
I think that is reality. I don't think that if you've been watching Shedeur Sanders for as long as you should be through his collegiate career, that you wouldn't come away with some of those things. Now, here he is throwing a nice clean ball. I think he's doing a lot of work to get things going, but is that awful? Like, I want to make sure that it's similar to when Cam Newton was calling Brock Purdy a game manager. And I was arguing up and down, it's worse things to be than a game manager, dog. You telling me you're a quarterback that can come in and preserve and ensure that your team can make a win, it can make the right decisions. You're not a gunslinger who just allows Quinn Ewers allows these teams to get back. Oh no, when it's Brock Purdy's time to ice a game with 7 minutes left in the fourth, I know, he knows what he's doing. I'm gonna hit that little 5 hitch. I'm gonna hand off, hit that little screen. I'm gonna boom. I'm gonna make all the right decisions. And then when my time to take the top off, boom, let's hit the dagger. Like that's money in that. You know what I'm saying? There is NFL money in being able to be that decisive and do those things. So when we talk about somebody getting Andy Dalton comparisons, when we talk about Teddy Bridgewater, when we talk about Geno Smith, just remember who we're talking about. We're talking about NFL caliber starters who did amazing things in the league. The conversation, though, is he's a first round talent. Let me know in the comments, where is Shedeur Sanders going to get drafted, man? Like the video if you like it, dislike if you don't like it. If you enjoy these types of videos, let me know as well in the comments. If there's something you want to see, let me know in the comments. What type of foosball content? It's off-season, baby, so we're going to do all different types of things. Like the video if you like it, dislike if you don't like it. Subscribe if you enjoy college football content, draft content, everything else in between, man. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. You know you're great, so keep being great, all right?